Okay, this is a pretty unique one. This is a total of 162 acres, right up basically at Lake of the Ozarks. It doesn't have lake frontage, but it's right across the street. It's got multiple lake views. It's certainly the largest tract we've ever had this close to the lake or with any type of lake view. Actually, generally, in order to get a lake view, you have to be set back a ways from the lake. But because of the topography of this property, it's basically right at the lake. The north end overlooks the lake, and then from the south side, you have more of a sweeping view of the lake. So let's hop in here. We'll take a look at this. So here's the tract. It's outlined in red. What we have is we actually have three separate tracts out there. We've got 102 acres, 54 acres, and just shy of 7 acres, 6.9 acres. And what we've decided to do, normally we would sell the three of them separately. What we've decided to do, since they do kind of go fairly well together, is we're going to offer them all together. Um, and if it strikes someone's fancy and they say that I've got to have it, then we do have a good price reduction with the three of them. If they were purchased separately, it would be substantially more. But if someone does want to keep them all together, we will work with them on that, and you can see the price in the listing. So what it is here's the Lake of the Ozarks. This is in Camden County. Um, the three tracks. Let's zoom out first to give you some scale as to where we are. You can see the Lake of the Ozarks there. Extremely popular, most popular vacation destination in Missouri. Now on the lower right, that's Camdenton. That's kind of the big city at the lake. And then what you see here is the Lake of the Ozarks. It has different sections. Kind of the I don't know if you want to say the party section, but the party section is right here by Camdenton, and then going up toward this east arm of the lake, extending a little ways to the west, and that's where you'll find the speedboats, the party barges, all that good stuff. Super fun, and there's plenty of fishing there and everything too, but a lot more lake traffic. Once you start to get to the west, where this property is, that's considered more the family-friendly section of the lake. That's where we take our personal family vacations every year. In fact, here's the property. The last 2 years, we've stayed just a couple miles north, rented a house right here on the lake. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you just all you see are fishermen and families pulling tubes. It's an awesome environment. So to get to the property from Camdenton, you go north on Highway 5. You'll cross the lake. You'll go west on Highway 7. And we'll zoom in here a little bit. By the way, there's some good public land in the area. Fiery Fork Conservation Area right here. But honestly, with this much acreage in this area, you won't need public land to hunt. This area is thick with deer, and this is a big, big tract. You're going to have a lot of deer and turkey out here. Okay, a couple ways to get to the property. Let's stick with the easiest. Go west on 7, and then you're going to go north on Highway Z. You'll see a Dollar General here on the left. That's a good landmark. And you're going to go right onto Highway Z. Excuse me. We'll zoom in a little more. So you'll take Z to the north for about 2 miles. You'll take a right onto Kaufman Bend Drive. That's right here. Go a quarter mile and then hang a right onto Dodds Camp Road. And that's a gravel road. And we'll zoom in from here. Okay. So Dodds Camp Road on the right. Now there's a couple ways to get to this property. See how close I can get and still be able to really see what's going on here. So these yellow lines that you see, those are easement roads. These white lines are the county roads, and these dotted lines are just trails on the property. That's all that those are indicating. Those are not easements or trail or roads for anyone else. Those are private trails on the property. So if I were coming to the property, it depends on which section you're headed to. But well, in the video, for instance, what we did was we took Dodds Camp Road going to the east. As it cuts to the north, you continue going on the little road, and then pretty soon you're right on the property. For the video, anyway, we pulled up here to this clearing. Now, we've had properties in this area for years. This one we kept for a while. We leased it out for a while. Now we've got it on the market to sell it. And so I'm very familiar with this. And there's a trail that from where we parked continues all the way to the east and goes down a hill into this meadow area. So you've got this large open meadow area, and Pearson Creek, which is actually a pretty good creek, borders most of the east side of this property, which is pretty awesome. It's a live water creek. It flows directly into Lake the Ozarks, just a few hundred feet past the property. Um, so that's one way to get there. Um, a separate way, so if we were selling the 54 acres separately from the 102 acres, then you wouldn't be able to use this dotted line to access the 54 acres. But you can use these yellow easement roads. So you can either take a right here, and there's a sign, I believe this is called Walkabout Drive. It's just a small gravel road, goes down to the south and hooks up with this other gravel road. Or you can come off Dodds Camp Road. There's a gate here, but we'll give you the code. You take that down, and then you continue easterly across the fields, and then the easement road dead ends right at the property. So you can get right onto the property that way. Yeah, with so much to see here, I'm not really sure where to begin. Beautiful open meadow. It hasn't been mowed for a couple years, but it's a good solid meadow. I'm sure it needs to be mowed. This, like I said, Pearson Creek flowing along a good portion of the east side. I would love to call it a year-round creek, but as soon as I say that, we'll have the driest year, in 100 years, and it'll dry up. But every single time that we've been out there over the last close to 10 years, Pearson Creek is flowing. So open meadow here. Now, this 6.9 acres or whatever, is kind of a unique property as well, because it does have frontage on Dodds Camp Road here, but it's steep. So if you were to split this off as a separate piece, you'd be having some dozer work or skid loader work to do to get up this steep hill. Probably be worth it, because the view from up here on the north end is amazing, as you can imagine. The lake view from there is just stunning. So because the best access is from the west or the south, that's why it goes well with these other two tracks. So let's switch to a topo map, and that gives us a lot of good information on a property like this. So if we're coming in where we did the video, we come into basically a large level area, which is actually the highest point. As I look at this topo map, it's the highest point around, actually. So that's why you've got the lake view. Actually, from here where we had the truck, you've got a view to the lake, and that's with no view clearing done. If we were to go in and spend a couple days on this property, the very first thing we do would be clear out a few of the smaller trees to open up this lake view here. This trail, all these trails will be overgrown, I'm sure. They just probably haven't been maintained for several years. But this trail goes down. You've got lake views as you go down there. Once you cut to the north, you've got another. See, basically, this is a big ridge. You go down the trail, and you're on another large flat ridge. And that goes all the way to the north. And then once you get to about the north half of this 6 acres, it begins to drop again, and this ridge goes right down to the road, basically. The property, well, let's do this. The property sits behind Dodds Camp Road for the most part, because back in the 50s, these tracks between the property and Dodds Camp Road were subdivided into building lots, and you'll see those cabins and whatnot. But the property does actually front Dodds Camp Road in a few different spots. And if you play with this map right listing, it'll show you that pretty well. Apparently, the northwest part of the 6.9 acres actually has a little frontage on Dodds Camp. I have no idea what the story is with that. That's what it shows on the map. That's what it shows on the county map as well. Maybe at some point someone thought about putting in a driveway there. I think that would be a big pain to have to do that. But anyway, back to the topo map. This says spring. I believe that's referring to the spring to the east of the property here. Now, with a tract this big and this kind of terrain, there's a very, very strong chance that you will have some live water springs. It's just only certain springs are labeled on topo maps. So when I look at topography like this in this valley area, this Pearson Creek is going to be a spring-fed creek, and so the springs have to come from somewhere, and this kind of topography lends itself really well to springs. So as we go, I'm trying to think there's just so much to talk about. Check out the listing for more details, feel free to play with the interactive MapRight app. It's really handy. If you get the full version, I think you can do some different stuff as far as, let's see here, MapRight layers. You can do different layers, and one of them is property parcels. So that links to the county's GIS site. It's where it's pulling that data from, and it's showing these different neighboring tracts. So you can see, for instance, as you look along the west side here, this has all been subdivided decades ago into building lots. And there actually aren't very many houses here. So if you wanted some different access points, great possibility you could contact the owners of some of these small lots. I mean, if people aren't building on these lots, they oftentimes will sell them for virtually nothing if they haven't been used for years. Lake of the Ozarks right here, obviously. Let's zoom in a little bit. There is a really good boat launch right here, just across the road from the property. I believe it's a community launch and that you have to be a member of the neighborhood community, but I've been told that it's ridiculously cheap, like $65 a year or $100 a year or something, to give you rights to that boat launch and that fishing area. Probably some docks for rent. I mean, it's Lake of the Ozarks, so there's docks for rent all over the place. Yeah, that's two different ways to get into the property. If we really zoom in here, let's say the 54 acres, for instance. And this tract was logged, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 years ago. Was not clear cut. It's been growing back very nicely, actually. And there are sections that look like they weren't logged at all. You can see that when you look at the aerials as well. This whole southern section of the 102 acres, for the most part, is big, thick timber. And then you've got timber everywhere, so looks really good. Okay, we're going to zoom in on this 54 acres. Because potentially you could access it off the east side, off of Dodds Camp Road, but you might have to drive across the creek, which is doable in spots. So these maps, by the way, this is the MapRight pulls from the county maps. And county maps are fairly accurate. They're not 110% accurate. Like, it's really not likely that this guy's house, I mean, the property line is probably directly behind his house, and the map is just not, precise. But it's pretty good. It'll really show you what's up. Here we've got a ton of frontage on Dodds Camp Road, but we've got that Pearson Creek there. So you'd have to drive across that. Let's try a different map layer. Try a satellite. That was a Google map. This is satellite. It's really not telling us anything else. Premium. There you can see that's obviously a winter time. You can see the creek a little better there. But Pearson Creek is beautiful. Gravel bottom creek with some large flat rocks as well. It's been a little while, but I've been all over this with a four-wheeler. Some of these that show as roads here are they're mapped out as roads, but they just haven't been used for decades. So actually this shows that there's some type of roadway going to the property there and to the property or the creek and then the property over here. There's just a whole lot that you can do here. It's actually, I forgot to even mention this, but it's a really interesting situation in that this west part, this 102 acres, is zoned A1 agricultural, and then the east part, the 54 acres, is zoned R1 residential, and I believe the 6.9 is R1 residential as well. But with that, there are a million things you can do. I mean, as far as building just a standard house or cabin. So since there's zoning here in this area of Camden County, we have not placed our standard 6 restrictions on the property. So we have placed no restrictions on the property. What would be on the property would be the county zoning regulations. So that's like what you have in 95% of America is there's property zoning, and in this case, residential here, agricultural here. Agricultural, I'm told, is the least restrictive type in that you can have certain businesses. I mean, you can have a farm, you can have, I guess, a winery or a vineyard. There are actually some wineries and vineyards in this area because the climate is good for that. So I mean, you can call Camden County, or they've got a really good website if you get some time to check it out, and it's got all the zoning stuff. But basically, I mean, we can try to help on zoning, and we know some basic stuff. But for real specifics, you're going to want to contact the county. I believe when you build, you've got to have either 640 or 600 square feet foundation. I mean, a lot of it's just similar to what our restrictions would be. Um, but I mean, just a lot you can do, and pretty unique to have two different zonings on here. So, I mean, for a hunt camp, um, certainly on the agricultural part, I mean, most of this stuff by the lake is zoned residential, and as far as I know, everybody happily hunts it. So I don't know if it's restricted or not, but I don't think anybody cares. But I mean, check into it, do your own research if you have some specific usage in mind, some specialty usage. The county's your best resource for that. Let's turn that parcel layer off. Okay, so we've got the lake. I definitely wanted to try to keep this short, but there's just so much to see on this track. To check out the aerials as well. We've got some drone videos that I believe are not summertime drone videos, but early spring. So we've only got a few leaves out, but it's a good way to see the topography of the area. Yeah, I could just go on and on, but I've got to cut it off at some point. I know people get super bored of listening to me drone on about a property. So if you have any questions, you can call us in the office, or you can email us at sales@instantacres.com. These tracks that we're doing together with the reduced price, we're doing a little different down payment structure on this. So if you have any questions on that, just look at the listing or let us know. But if this is something you've been looking for, I mean, we're not going to get another property like this. This is kind of a one-time event to have something this size with this many amenities, this close to the lake. So power and phone are either physically on the property or extremely close, because you do have homes around the edges. Access is good. Views are good. I mean, geez, hunting is just phenomenal in this area. Just phenomenal. I mean, we have people who are hardcore hunters, and they talk about this area right here. So white-tailed deer and turkey hunting, unbelievable. Fishing, obviously, Lake of the Ozarks, one of the best lakes in certainly the United States for fishing. You've got some really good access points nearby. Yeah, I will stop talking now. So InstantAcres.com for more information, or to see if this is available. Give us a call in the office, or send us an email at sales@instantacres.com.